Welcome to the podcast Grief and the City. And just to let you know, if you came here to hear the big city drama or high-end fashion stories, it's not about that. It's gonna be about grief, about cities, and about losses.
Yes, so this podcast that we're starting, it's about grief and the city, that's in the title. So unpacking both. One is we'll talk about all kinds of loss that we get to experience as humans, just navigating life, and all kinds of grief that comes with it. But also to talk about urban environments and living in cities and how cities can help us process emotions or hinder that, and basically also how cities grieve, because histories have a lot of history, a lot of loss as well. So it's a combination of our lived human experiences and then kind of urban memories. That's the mix we're going for.
Yep. My name is Jane.
And my name is Alexey.
And we have a little co-host who's taking a siesta nap right now, Shira. And today's episode basically is about getting to know us. What do we do, who we are as humans. And then in the next episodes, we're gonna go more into the topic. So,
all right.
Alexey, tell me, what were you like when you were 10 years old?
We didn't prepare these questions before, so I'm like, wait, what? 10-year-old Alexey, my goodness. I'm originally Russian, so me being 10 years old, I think falls around the end of the Soviet Union and the collapse of that entire system. So there goes my dreams, you know. I think I was a very introverted child, which came from like trauma and bullying, but also very inquisitive. Like I just loved watching things, like watching people. I remember walking around and always kind of looking down, imagining that I'm flying over a landscape. So it's not a ditch, it's like a Grand Canyon, right? Or the opposite, just looking up all the time, which means that I fell a lot because I would like walk into things all the time. So very introverted, falling all over the place all the time. That's kind of me at 10.
Did you have already some kind of hobbies or interests that you were kind of moving forward to?
No, I think it was, I loved maps and atlases because again, it's that observing the world kind of a little detached. So yeah, I was already into geography and memorizing capital cities and river names, and so a little bit of a sprinkle of OCD, I think, on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like Explorer the Dora kind of childhood.
Kind of, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
On the ruins of an empire. That's yes.
Okay. Got it.
Now, my first question for you was, you grew up on the island, correct?
Yeah.
What island is that, just for the record?
I grew up on the island of Saaremaa from Estonia. We have, if I'm not mistaken, sorry to my geography teacher, we have over 200 islands in Saaremaa, and that's the biggest one.
Wow.
So we are coming from this kind of, we call it, it's a different kind of country because the time flows different. The people are different. We are, in Estonia, we're very known to be very powerful, very like, we want to be business people, and we have this extra energy to us. So it's always like a plus if I say to other people, like, I'm from Saaremaa. So they kind of like, oh, okay, watch out for that one.
All right. I'm glad I asked because in my mind, I always think of the island as San Remo, so in my mind, she's from San Remo, and that's not where she's from. So you grew up on the island. My question about the island is, do you remember first time or for times leaving the island, like getting off the island, and what that experience was like, if it moved you in some way, or are you still on the island in your mind?
I think I moved out of the island before I actually moved out, because when I was younger, of course, I spent all my childhood there, my education, but already during like basic education time, I started going often to the mainland because I was doing dancing and I just didn't have enough opportunities for my level on the island. So I started going quite often to Tallinn. So like the 4-hour bus ride for me, it was not a problem. I loved being on the bus and then just looking out, and that's all the creativity coming into me. And my parents, I'm very thankful for them because they started taking me and my brother for like car trips across Europe. In I don't know what age was like the first one, but I think maybe like 8 or something. So every summer we would go somewhere in Europe with the car. So it can be up to like the longest one we took was to near Cadiz. So all the way from Sarema.
There's no more like, Europe after that. They're
exactly.
Like, let's go all the way.
Exactly. Yeah. So it really expanded my understanding that there's so many opportunities and there's no limits. So if I want to do something, I don't have money for plane tickets, I can go with a car. I find a solution to get out there, to see the world. And that was always my mind. Like, I want to be out there and I don't want to be stuck in one place forever.
All right. Yeah. Very cool.
My next question for you would be, name me 3 things in your life that help make you feel better.
Ooh. I don't know if better is what I'm going for. Generally, I'm gonna answer that maybe what makes me feel safe, because I feel like that's what I'm chasing more often than feeling better. So one thing would be I'm basically a hoarder, but for like not in a clinical sense. I collect like little, from any event I go to, I will take a flyer or I'll keep this like a ticket stub, right? Or like some kind of tiny memento. And then I collect them in a box through the course of a year, and at the end of the year I kind of glue them and shove them together into this record of a year that has physical bits and pieces. And now I have about like 15 of these diaries. And then I like having them because I can just randomly pull out one and just go through, and then that gives me that dopamine. I'm like, oh yeah, I went to see that thing. Oh my God, I remember that pizza, right? So it's a way to kind of relive the nicer moments. And that's many things in that one thing. So maybe that answers already. But the 2, I like my mug. I have a coffee mug that I'm attached to. The mug cost 75 cents. It came from a store in a tiny town in Bulgaria, but it was important for me to visit that town. It was kind of a weird childhood dream to go to that particular place. And so I got to go there, and then I was like, I want a souvenir, because it felt like a really big accomplishment to like take my 6-year-old self to this tiny town in Bulgaria. And I was like, I couldn't think of a souvenir, and then I just bought a 75-cent mug, and so it's my favorite mug now. And that also like helps me feel that like good things happen, and I'm safe, I'm with the things, and yeah.
And the 3rd?
Oh, and I like paper towels. I don't know. I think to like.
For what purpose?
Because they're so good for all kinds of purposes. You know, like to me, home is where the heart is. I'm like, no, home is where the paper towels are at. So, because I think you can like use them for so many different things, from doodling, or if you want a little creative project, or any kind of mess. So yeah, maybe paper towels is a 3rd thing. Okay,
so now audience, if Alexey's birthday comes, now you know what to get for him. A lot of paper towels and random mugs all over the world.
This podcast is brought to you by Charmin. Yes, no. All right, so that's my 3 things. Not maybe 3 things, but do you have a comfort food? Something that you go to either as a guilty pleasure or actual seeking comfort?
I think even though when I was growing up, I was I wouldn't say picky eater, but still I wasn't very open to different new flavors.
Okay.
Until I kind of moved to Valencia, and here it's like the world cuisine is in front of you because we have so many different nationalities. And then one day I went to try for the first time ramen in a specific space. And they have this crispy chicken ramen that is a bit spicy. And this is just like, whenever I feel emotionally or physically down, then it's kind of like, that's what I want. but of course my expectations are high. So one time I went there and it was horrible. And I was like, I felt like, I don't know, I got some extra trauma from that. Just having that like expectation that, I'm gonna get this warm, cozy kind of ramen bowl. And then it wasn't that. But of course, ramen is also like, if it's done properly, it has a lot of nutrition value. So I think also that kind of helps the body, like especially like cold winters. I really love that. It's not, I don't go for it often, but when I do, it does really help me feel better.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we're going to stop this podcast and go get some ramen now because I'm suddenly hungry. No, I'm gonna say, yeah, that's a great answer. I love it. It's classic comfort food.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Exactly. So tell me, what is a quote, or maybe nowadays it's more popular to say mantra, that you tell yourself or that helps you when you fall in your life?
Ooh. I don't know, part of me wants to be like, holiday, celebrate, but that's not it. No, I think I'm a big fan of This Too Shall Pass. And because I like it, because if it's in like in a tough, shitty moment, I can be like, this too shall pass, or this too should pass, ASAP. And that kind of helps move things along, because it also reminds me that I have been in situations previously that are difficult, but I'm not there now. So, and it also, I've found, helps me appreciate like a good moment. It doesn't disconnect me from a moment to be like, oh, it's a good moment, but it just gives it a little bit more value, because I go, this also is not going to last. So like, be present to like your friends, your lover, your whatever it is that you're doing, to the dog stretching after a nap, you know, this too shall pass. So I like that one. Yeah,
it's good to remind yourself that when these kind of heavy times come, that we always think like, this is it, like I can't move forward, and you kind of sink into the feelings and the moment. And especially if your environment is also the same, it can get very like, I'm jumping forward with the grief topic right now, but it can be very good to remind yourself that this is just one part of my life. Maybe it's not gonna pass tomorrow, but it is gonna pass.
It's a good rock bottom phrase, you know, because you go like, at some point you do have to hit something to bounce back off of. And to me, that's a good one to go, this... Sometimes I go, this too shall pass, and it doesn't, and I do sink deeper, you know, and that happens too. But overall, that would be the one. Now, not in a quote sense, but is there a piece of advice or like a saying that maybe someone gave you, like a person from your actual life, that told you, that kind of stuck with you?
That's a good one. Need to think.
We don't have bad questions here.
Okay, really how much time do we have? I'm thinking right now, first one that jumps in my head is, it comes from my high school time. We had this project where we had to do, I don't know exactly what we had to do, but we like, I'm creative. So if you give me a very basic exercise or, you know, something that I have to do, I'm gonna take the option that I'm gonna think out of the box. So I think the task was that we had to show some kind of love through that project. And I was like, okay, so I'm gonna go and interview my favorite teachers in my school, including also the principal. So me and my friend, we just took our cameras. Her dad was a videographer, so we lended all the equipment and we tried to do it awful quality. But at the end of all these interviews, we did ask advice for them, for us as high schoolers. And one of the teachers said that we really need to be not afraid to dream. And even if we feel we're afraid and it's like too far away, it will come true if you sincerely dream of it. And that moment, it already hit me kind of hard, because I was a big dreamer. I wanted to move abroad. I wanted to be a dancer, whatever. Didn't come true, but yeah. Yeah, who knows? But an extra layer came to it when, just like at the end of our high school, after graduation, like 2 months later, she was found unconscious, and she ended up passing away. And she was not an old teacher. She was very vital, she went running, and basically that's how it happened. But she was very like the kind of teacher that inspires you to be better and really wants students to understand the core values. It's not about doing the exercise, it's about finding the meaning in it and growing. And this is who I want to be as a teacher. So her passing was like something like, when I took that video out after her passing, it was like, wow, who would have known that just like a half a year later she's gone, you know? So that's what keeps coming to my mind all the time, that just keep dreaming as big as you can. And if you're not shaking from fear, you're not dreaming big enough. So that's my kind of advice.
It reminded me of, I think it's an Alan Cummings story, but he talks about meeting Oprah, and he's been obsessed with meeting Oprah, or his friend was obsessed with meeting Oprah or something like that. And then finally there was some event and Oprah was there. And so they went and they said, oh my God, it's been my dream to meet you my whole life. And Oprah looked at them and said, you should get bigger dreams. So I think that it's a little bit like that, just couched in a different way. Like, you definitely got to dream bigger than meeting Oprah. So
Yeah.
But for our podcast, we dream of having Oprah on our podcast. So there we go.
Yeah. We start already big with this a guest who's like slipping through the podcast.
Just for the record, the dog is alive. I can see it. It's moving. It's fine. We don't have a dead dog as part of the Grief and the City podcast.
Yeah. She's just adapting to life in front of the camera, but you can see she's natural because she's not nervous at all, you know. Okay, and she's even like, I don't know, like what's the same as like cats purr, but he's like doing kind of the same, but...
She may be farting. I don't know.
Can't smell it though. Everything good here.
All right. Detour. This is a very ADHD friendly podcast.
So moving on from who we are as people, let's move to the topic of the podcast. So,
okay.
Alexey, what is your connection to the topic of grief, or maybe even wider, like death also?
So I think that to be human is to grieve in a way. It's an inseparable part of our experience, because with everything that we learn, we also lose something, right? Because we're finding new dreams. We have to let go of the old ones, right? When we meet new people, previous people that we know move away out of our life one way or the other. So I think that grief accompanies us through life, and it's very important to learn how to walk that with grief, right? How to get through life with grief. Because in my personal experience of it, aside from, losing grandparents or relationships ending, right? Or losing pets, moving away, I had like 24 addresses in 20 years. I moved a lot. And so with that comes, each time I'm excited for a new place, but there's also loss of, connections or something that you liked. So to me, learning to understand grief has been very helpful in navigating my own life and kind of my own history of traumas and depression, and learning to move through that and have some form of quality of life. That has been an important skill to learn. So now with this opportunity, I think there's a way for more people to kind of understand the impact that grief has on their life, and then learn to move with it through life.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that, like, if I ask them, like, do you have any experience with grief, and they're like, no, and I'm like, I don't believe you. Because I think, like, they don't just realize that grief is not about losing a person. It's so much more to it, and we go through these little losses almost every day. Okay, I hope not every day, but quite often. So it's like we're not even noticing that we are actually going through the process of grief.
I mean, if you see a toddler throwing a temper tantrum because they didn't get the balloon or whatever, like that's grief. Exactly, right? Yeah. So that's grief as well. I mean, in a very, not to trivialize every grief, right? But there's the shades of it are very, very wide.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, and for you, grief is your full-time job?
I guess so.
All right. What's that like, being a full-time griefer? That's not a word, is it? Griefer. No. I think we just made up a word, griefer. It's not a word.
Griefer?
No.
We can start using that.
Forget the word. It's a good, not a good word.
We have to copyright it first.
Yes.
It's morbid.
Okay.
No, actually it's not. I would say it's exactly the opposite. When I started it started just by my relative who we got a diagnosis, very end phase diagnosis, and I wasn't ready for it. Our family wasn't ready for it. And even though I was a nurse back then already, I still didn't have the tools and the knowledge to navigate that situation and be guidance for my family to go through that or support her in these final days. And that kind of like activated something, I don't know, in the universe or within me, that I couldn't anymore escape from that. It just started coming back and again and again. And at one point for me, like, even though I was thinking like, wow, this is so morbid, like who wants to work in a field like this? Not me. Like in my past life, I was dancer, as I said, I was creative person. People know like, oh, Jane is gonna be the superstar dancing on stage and stuff like this. And here I am, you know. And this topic is very sad, deep topic, is like pressing into my life, kind of like the doors are closed, but it's like, okay, I'm gonna come in. Exactly. No, it's not that polite. It was just like slamming the door, you know. So at one point I was kind of like, well, I guess I have to accept that. And it's been a big journey for me as a person to go through that, because there was about a lot of grief even when I said no to dancing, when I stopped it, because I made it 20 years as a dancer, like when I started dancing to when I finished. And that was a big grief in my life. I really went through this kind of breakup grief process because I didn't know who I am. I was a dancer all my life. I even have it tattooed on myself. You know?
Oh, right.
So it was very weird to find myself as somebody who's dealing everything with grief and death. And now that it's been like 4 or 5 years, I feel like, wow, I'm living my life to the fullest. I'm not gonna say that I feel like every day is the last one, you know, like the cliche, but I do feel I'm less afraid to live. And I feel bad for people who are afraid to live and go do things that scare them. So that's kind of my everyday life.
All right. Well, two thoughts came to me. One was that sometimes the right things or the right people find us, right? Yeah. We so much like, what do you want? You got to go out and get it. What are you after? And I found that in my own experience, very often the right thing or the right people find you, and you just have to be present enough to acknowledge that and let that happen, right? And the second thought came and left.
So I can bounce off from that.
Right.
I do believe on that something I learned for the first years where I was like getting into the field, and I discovered myself the role of death doula, and I was like, wow, like this is what I want to do. It was like inside something was saying to me like, this is it, this is what you were made for, you have to go for that. And then it became like a constant, like, how do I say it, I needed to be so patient with what life gives me. As I said, you know, that's how it started. Life was giving me things, I wasn't searching for it. And then the next years it was the same all the time. I have to be patient, and the projects, the people, they come to me. But I know that when they come, I need to welcome them and I need to grab onto those. And I think a lot of doulas say the same thing, whether it's birth doulas or death doulas. They say you're waiting for the right clients and they will come to you on the right time. So it's not too much about searching for the clients, it's that they come to you. And sometimes you have maybe a couple months without no clients.
Mm-hmm.
And that teaches us patience. That we shouldn't become like, the first years I got so anxious. I was like, I need to do everything, I want to do everything while I'm sitting here, you know, like typical Estonian, like workaholic, like I have to do all the time work. But then I started like understanding like, hey, you know, maybe it's time to slow down, take care of yourself, because that's also very important. And yeah, so this is kind of like how the world for me works now.
I love it. I think I'm excited for this podcast because the subject is really underexplored, right? Yeah. Even for myself and my own interest. But I do think that with the kind of shift of a perspective or extra knowledge and ideas, it really helps you live a fuller life, not just preparing for the death. So I don't know, I'm excited about this.
Yeah, me too. I think there's a lot to explore. And as we said in the beginning, that a lot of people don't acknowledge that they're going through grief, and that can cause also a lot of conflicts between friends, colleagues, partners. And it's like, let's just like acknowledge that maybe we're going through grief, whatever kind of grief it is. And it's like we need to be empathic to each other at that phase. That like, I know a lot of people say like, if you lose a dog, it's nothing, you know, compared to losing a person. Well, if that dog was your whole life, you're gonna grieve maybe even harder than your grandma per se, you know. So I think
there's some people I lost, I did not grieve a minute.
Exactly.
But
we're not bad people, trust me. But maybe that's a good moment to address that we do have also a common hobby or work.
Yes, we do.
What do we do?
It's stand-up comedy. We apologize in advance. We're both budding, I was gonna say we're both young stand-up comedians, but I no longer qualify for young. So we're budding stand-up comedians. That is part of what brought us together in the first place. And so I think that also is like a disclaimer on a podcast. It's a heavy subject. We're gonna treat it with reverence, but maybe also with irreverence. So there'll be some inappropriate jokes along the way.
Yeah. I do believe that we should talk about these heavy topics a bit lighter, and this is also a point that we want to give across with this podcast, is that we don't have to always be very serious when we talk about this, because that can become heavy, especially like when I do my, for example, I have 8-hour course training I have to do for healthcare providers. If I would be dead serious the whole time and talk about emotional things,
no, that's not everybody makes it to the end of that course. I think that some people are gonna be like, okay, I'm out. Boom.
Exactly, because on my first training I did in a hospital, I was invited there to talk about it, and I went there. Most of the audience were older than me, so first of all they were shocked to see me as a trainer, and then after we finished that full day training, the HR walked in. She's the one who invited me, and she come in and she saw people leaving like with a smile on their face, feeling good, you know, and she came to tell me like, wow, like, what did you do? Like, I thought like people are gonna be sad after this, you know. And I was like, well, that's not how I do it. Yeah. But this does come actually from I can't remember his name, a professor from England who, when I was studying nursing, he gave us training about suicide and self-harm. Mm-hmm. And the first thing he did when he walked in front of the auditorium, he said that I could talk about this topic in a way that we're gonna be all crying within a couple minutes and we're gonna continue that full day, or to preserve ourselves, we're gonna do it in a lighter way. We can make a bit of jokes, we can talk it lighter, a bit distance ourselves from that topic, and then it's gonna go well. And I think that's where I grab onto it, and I continued that as a teacher now, that I don't wanna make it too heavy. Of course, there's moments where it gets emotional, it gets heavy, but that's life. We go the up and downs, you know. And that's probably how the podcast will also be.
Right. So, and to find out if it's going to be like that or is going to devolve into just sob fest every single time, or the raunchiest podcast about death ever, you're going to have to come back for our next episode.
Yeah.
Awkward
Bye.
pause. Bye. No, wait. So, wait. We've been thinking that we need like a catchphrase, right? Something that we can end a podcast with. Something that we can be like, you know, grief in the city, so long, or something. So we were not able to come up with one at the time. So we want to ask the audience, if you have a good tagline for a podcast about grief in the city, maybe watch a couple episodes, send those in.
Yeah. And it cannot be just like that. Because we're not trying to get sued by HBO, please.
No, we're trying to get hired by HBO is what we're trying. No, I'm kidding. No, but it's, so we're looking for a tagline that would kind of help us summarize the city and something that we could sign the podcast off every time.
Yeah.
We don't have that now, so we're going to repeat the awkward silence and the wave.